I've done a lot of TBRs and a lot of TBR games, and I'm always talking about the books that I want to read. Now let's talk about the books that I don't want to read. It's Sam. Welcome back to my channel. I decided to do the anti-TBR tag today to show y'all some of the books that I don't want to read and talk about why I don't want to read them. I do want to preface this by saying that just because I don't want to read these books doesn't mean that you shouldn't. Some of these books I'm sure are absolutely incredible, and I'm sure a lot of people really love these books, and just because it's not something that I'm interested in doesn't make it a bad book. So some of these books, me saying that I don't want to read it doesn't mean that I think it's a bad book. It just means that I don't think I'm going to particularly like it for my interest level. So let's talk about the books that I don't want to read. So before we get into the video, don't forget to hit that subscribe button, and the little bell icon will notify you when I post. I generally post on Sundays and Thursdays, sometimes a little bit in between. You can also find me on Instagram. I'm going to be a lot more active on there very soon, I promise. Let's get into the video. Okay, so the first question for the tag is a popular book everyone loves that you have no interest in reading. This one was pretty easy for me because I have been seeing this book absolutely everywhere for like the last year. People are obsessed with it, especially on TikTok. And I can understand why. Like, I think it would be good, but I don't think I would like it, and that is The Invisible Life of Addie Larue. This book is by V.E. Schwab, and it follows our main character Addie, and she made a deal to live forever, but she's cursed in that deal in that she will never be remembered by anyone. So she kind of is living her life. Nobody ever remembers her that sees her twice until 300 years after her original deal. She meets a man in a bookstore and he remembers her name. I think the premise sounds really good, and I'm sure that it is a great book, but I just do not see how this could be a happy ending. And the things that I have heard about the ending, I don't know exactly how it ends, but just the things that I have heard about the book in general, I just don't see how it could be something that I would end up liking in the end. I think I might enjoy the story, but I think I would end up really upset by the end, and that's just not something I want to do to myself, if we're being honest. So I am not planning to read that one, but please feel free and let me know how it goes. The second question is a classic book or author you don't have an interest in reading. This one was a little challenging because I couldn't really narrow it down. I don't really read a lot of classics in general. I don't really like a lot of classics. I have read some. I mean, I was an English lit major, so obviously I have read classics, but there are very, very few that I read and liked, so the list of books that I don't want to read for classics could go on for a while. But I wrote down War and Peace because that seemed like the least likely book for me to read. It's very long. It does not seem appealing. I don't actually know what it's about other than, I assume, war. I just don't think that I would like it, and I don't really like classics, and I know that that one's kind of dense anyways, so I'm gonna skip it. The third question is an author whose books you have no interest in reading. I don't know if this one's cheating a little bit because I did read one of her books, but I don't have an interest in reading any of her romance books, and that is Colleen Hoover. So I did read Verity, which is a thriller, and I did really like it, but I have no interest in reading Colleen Hoover's romance books because I've never heard of one that's happy. Like, every single one that I hear, I feel like it's depressing and tragic, and I don't do tragic endings. I don't like them. I'm one of those people who like reads the last page of a book to make sure that it's a happy ending before I read it. I just don't feel like her writing style and my personal taste are going to mesh well as far as romance goes. I would be interested in reading more thrillers from her because I did like Verity, but as far as romance goes, I'm okay without that. I'm good. Next one is an author you read a couple of books from and then decided that they are not for you. This one was super easy. I chose John Green. I'm so sorry. I have tried. I've read like 3 of his books and they're great books, but The Fault in Our Stars ruined my life, guys. It really, truly did. I did not pick up another book for like a year after I read that. That book is the reason I don't do tragic endings anymore. I no longer trust him. I did read a couple others. I read that one. I read Looking for Alaska, which really didn't make me feel any better. Those might have been the only 2 I read, but I can't. I can't. I know that his writing is great and I loved the book when I read it, but it ruined my life and I don't want to be put through that again. No, thank you. Question number 5 is a genre that you have no interest in or that you've tried and don't really like. For this question, I ended up settling on literary fiction. So I kind of struggle to like define literary fiction, but from what I could gather, it kind of fit what I don't like. Literary fiction is, it's not like, it's kind of the opposite of genre fiction, but it's more than just general fiction. It's fiction that's trying to like speak on specific topics and like make broader points and a lot of like social issues and stuff like that. And honestly, they kind of bore me. I mean, there's been 1 or 2 out there that I feel like could be literary fiction that I might have liked, but for the most part, that's not something I gravitate towards. That's not something I'm going to pick up unless it's a book that a lot of people are recommending to me. I'm not the type of person to go looking for literary fiction. I actually kind of avoid it if I can. So I just don't think it's really for me. I'm much more into genre fiction. I like fantasy and sci-fi and thrillers and romance. I prefer something along those lines, less poignancy and social issues and all of that stuff. That's just not what I read for. So I don't think literary fiction is for me, which if we're being honest is probably why I don't really like classics, because I feel like a lot of classics can tend towards the literary fiction side. Question number 6 is a book you have bought but will never read. So I actually already unhauled this one. I bought and will never read An Ember in the Ashes. I actually ended up putting it in my classroom library, never read it. I know how it ends, like the series, so I'm okay. Not that I'm like not gonna read it because the ending was spoiled, but I didn't like how it was going to end. And if you're seeing a trend here, you can probably pick up on where I'm going with that, but I will not spoil it. I am choosing not to put myself through that. So no thank you, I'm okay. Now I have heard that that is an absolutely fantastic series. So if you do like fantasy, I would absolutely pick it up. If you're not like me and scared of things like that, like absolutely pick it up. It sounds phenomenal. I just can't bring myself to go through that for that ending. The next question is a series that you have no interest in reading or that you have DNF'd. I chose Scythe. I DNF'd this year. I only got like 50 pages into the first book and quickly realized that the series itself was not for me. I didn't really like the plot, didn't care for like the premise of it, the whole scythes killing people and the way that they were choosing to kill people. It just didn't really make a lot of logical sense to me, and I kind of saw like, it's obviously it's a dystopian and I saw the dystopian themes, but I read a lot of dystopians and I was obsessed with the 2012 era of dystopians, and this one did not do it for me. Did not enjoy it, and I was kind of sad about it because I had high hopes and I had bought the whole series. But a lot of my students are really enjoying it now that I've put it in my classroom. And the last question is a new release that you have no interest in reading. So this one I had to think about because I don't really like to say that I'm not going to read a book that I'm sure I'm not going to read a book that I haven't heard a lot about. But I did end up finding one that is a new release that I have actually heard quite a bit about, and I'm fairly confident that I have no interest in it, and that is The Paris Apartment. I just don't think it's all that intriguing. I actually haven't heard really good things about it. I know some people like it, but a lot of people I've heard didn't like it. And the premise doesn't sound interesting enough to me to give it a shot if other people that I trust as far as their reviews go are telling me that they didn't like it. I don't think it's worth trying. I try really hard not to read books that I'm pretty sure I'm not gonna like, because I would much rather save that time to read books that I actually enjoy. So that's the anti-TBR tag. Those are the books that I don't really want to read. I don't want to say that I'm never gonna read any of them. I'm fairly confident that I won't, but you never know. I could change my mind someday. We'll see. We'll see. If you have a book on that list that you really liked and you think I should give it a shot and you want to try and change my mind, leave me a note in the comments. I am absolutely up to hear your point of view and why you think I should read some of these books. So leave me a comment. Let me know if you think I should give one of these books a shot. Let me know if you have any books on your anti-TBR. Totally want to know what books you will never read, because I think it's so interesting to see what books people choose not to read and why. Don't forget to hit that subscribe button, and I will see y'all in the next video. Bye!